Welcome back to the part two of Breaking Boundaries. Hijab, flag of freedom or of oppression? Just before the break, we were gonna, we mentioned about how things have changed, in terms of you donning the hijab, observing hijab. Because I guess you have that for yourself, for example, George, you have that kind of contrast.
Yeah.
Because you didn't wearing it at 8, or some in some cultures, Muslim girls, they wear hijab from day one almost.
Yeah.
So, have you noticed a contrast, and how has that been?
I think in myself personally, I think it's changed myself. It's made me more self-aware of Allah, always there. Having that purpose, that why you're doing it, and when you pray as well, you have to be always in hijab. So it's like you're walking around with Allah with you. That's the kind of thing I feel. That's the vibe I feel anyway. So I feel like I'm closer to Allah when I'm in hijab. Whereas before, when I wasn't observing the hijab, I always thought there was something missing in my life that didn't seem quite right, and also the way women are portrayed in society and treated in society, in media and things like this. And it's not very. There's an obvious imbalance between the male and the female gender,
Absolutely.
And I've always had this thing that something doesn't quite feel right, and it's only after I discovered Islam and started to practice the hijab that I unlocked the secrets of why you see the other side of the non-hijab kind of world compared to the hijab world, and the benefits of that, and you can see a clear contrast then. And in other people as well, I find that they respect you more and they have more values for you, and whereas before you were just treated as any other woman on the street, or
Okay.
And also it doesn't bring so much attention to you as well, which is a good thing. So unwanted attention, exactly. So
because you mentioned something which is quite interesting, because you said also like you get a sense of Allah being with you more, like also almost like a kind of spiritual dimension to it.
That was the first thing I noticed actually when I began wearing the hijab. Even before I became Muslim, and I just wanted to try it for the first time. I mean, every hijabi has had that experience of having the first
moment.
So I always remember mine, and I remember it was when I went shopping, and there was times where I went shopping and I would want to try buy a scarf and wear a hijab and just walk around in the mall with a hijab on, just to see how it feels, just to pretend I'm Muslim for a day in my own little world, And there would be people coming up to me saying "Assalamu alaikum, sister," and it would be really nice. Like, I feel like Allah was taking me on a journey, and like I was just totally
opening some doors for you. Some doors.
Definitely, And I felt actual like security as well, just wearing it, and I felt, I don't know, spiritually or physically, I felt quite secure in wearing the hijab. And when I came to take it off, I actually didn't want to take it off because it's like I missed that feeling. So. Yeah,
that's interesting. Interesting. Thanks for sharing that with us. How about yourself, Zara? How about your contrast?
You mean attachment to it?
No, just even like observing. You spoken earlier on, and as if your hijab kind of evolved to more formal. So did you notice a change either in yourself or in the external world, how you were received or your interactions?
My personal experience has been quite positive. Again, my family were quite welcoming. I have extended family that would question why there is a need for hijab, and they perhaps don't observe it as strictly as I do, but then I leave that for their choice, and this is my journey. So I don't really sway with people's opinions of me. Like I said, everybody's free to live the life that they want, because we are each individually answerable to God. So for me, it's been a positive change. It's a part of me, my identity on an external level, as you're beautifully explaining, as an internal journey. It's part of your soul. I couldn't imagine. I sometimes have nightmares waking up like where's my hijab? And that's like, you just don't ever want to be in a position that you leave the house and you're you're not covered. It's just something incomprehensible. So for me, you know, it's definitely a change for the better. I think, you know, as going to Muharram lectures since, you know, a child, and yes, you hear, you know, Sayyidah Zainab wore the, you know, she sacrificed everything for hijab, and so for me, I felt like a hypocrite at that point, you know, when I was in my early teens, that, you know, if that was the case, then why am I walking around without hijab? And I need to honour what their sacrifices were on a person for something that I can do for them. And then as you learn more, what does hijab mean? It doesn't stop me from doing anything. I can accomplish most things that I want to in life. You know, obviously I can't go skydiving with a person who might be non-mahram, things like that, you know, it's not eccentric. But most, you know, things in life, the whole point of your wearing hijab is that you're covered and go and do what you need to do. And the role models for that are Sayyidah Zainab, Our Lady Fatima alayhi salam, that they, you know, when they were put in situations, they had to speak up, they had to guide.
Could you say a little bit about who they are? Only because that we do, as Safia TV, have people who are not Muslims who are watching to find out about Islam, or their Arabic is not so good because they're not students of Islam, or just like the fundamentals. So maybe you could say a little bit about.
Well, Lady Fatima Salam Alayha is the daughter of the Holy Prophet, and some of the first, you know, as well as her mother, Lady Khadija, who we look at the flag bearers of the females. And the spiritual guide for women. They lived a life where obviously they had, in Arabia, 7th century was protected very much about male domination, but they in that time when they were killing women, those women stood up, and so there's Lady Fatima and her daughter Sayyidah Zainab, Salam Alayha, who accompanied Imam Hussein to the battles of Karbala, and very bravely. So
these are the grandchildren of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon him.
And Sayyidah Zainab in particular then, you know, was taken through as a captive through to Syria, and faced the tyrant Yazid, and it's in that time of great tragedy where she stood up, and people said it was as though Imam Ali alayhi salam was standing there and speaking to Yazid, the oppressor, and I think that's the strength of a woman, that she is as delicate as a flower, but she needs to be developed in such a way that she can uphold the tenets of religion equally as a man. There is no difference in terms of how God sees us. So
in terms of spiritual empowerment, there is no difference, and value, there's no
yes,
there's no
and
difference,
it's not, you know, how the feminists see it, that, you know, well, I'm equal to a man. We have our own strengths as genders, and we've got to build on what we are given from God. So, and there's nothing, like as I was saying, there's nothing that stops us, and those women are, you know, Lady Khadija was a businesswoman, you know, she was running an empire, she gave her money, wealth to her husband, she was older than him, you know, there was so many lessons from these people that you can, as women today, they're still relevant for us, and I don't think we justify, you know, the role models we have. But a lot of people think, you know, I sometimes read people saying things on social media saying women should be behind a veil and never seen, and I think that's not, we can't live in 7th century Arabia in these countries, because then we will get questioned of, your women are oppressed, and we're not oppressed. You know, Islam has given us so many rights. Stay within the boundaries we have been given, but there's nothing to stop us from, you know, achieving our personal ambitions.
And that's interesting that you mentioned Sayyidah Khadija, because many people who are not familiar with Islamic history, they don't know that the Prophet Muhammad's wife, peace and blessing be upon him, his wife was a businesswoman and an independent woman, if I can give it that term, you know, a trader and things of this nature. They just think of Muslims, as you said, just hiding behind screens and just hiding and not playing a part in civil society or the social movement of society. So it's key, because that's a misunderstanding, I guess, that the mass media would like to you know, perpetuate.
I mean, they were educating the women. Sorry.
No, you go.
They were educating the women. You know, they had classes. They were, you know, it wasn't they were just sat at home and, okay, well, the men are, you know, propagating Islam. They were alimas of their time, and the best of them. So, you know, we have so much to look up to, and I think that's the beauty of School of Ahl Bayt, is that we have such positive role models, and they really do teach us how to become all-encompassing women, to maintain our femininity, but to be spiritually very strong.
So you say maintain your femininity. I want to bring you in also on this one, but I've got to ask you, because some of in dialogue with women who are not Muslim, and they ask about Islam, and I'm having conversations, things like that, they say, but religion is you know, it tends to oppress women, and, you know, if modest, aren't men supposed to be modest, or why don't the men cover their hair? And, you know, they have a kind of a perception of what I guess their idea compared to the creator's idea of modesty would be, or how it should be. How would you
I think the element of freedom.
Talk to that. Yeah, how do you talk to that
come
comment?
into it, because there are some people who I've come across actual Muslim women as well who have made a choice that they don't want to observe the hijab, and I always want to know why that is. And they always pinpoint on the word freedom, like I want to be free from it. You know, they probably obviously don't have, they lack the spiritual
insight.
understanding.
Yeah.
So but I always think people obviously have a different perspective of this word freedom. Like for me, my freedom started when I started wearing the hijab and became Muslim. That was my breakaway, you know, into my own.
So you talk about hijab as something empowering.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, where I can go out there and not be, you know, a slave to the media and the fashion that you see out there nowadays. You know, maybe I don't want to wear those things, and I think it's as human beings, you have to. Some people, they walk around quite blindly to it, and they think that is the way of life. They don't know any better. And as soon as you break away from that and you introduce, well, it's not introducing something new, but you're sort of breaking away from the norms of your society that you're living in. They kind of sort of, you do get, you know, you get pointed at, and, you know, why are you so different to us? And, you know, so it's like what my freedom is breaking away from that, but they see it as that's not freedom, that's you being imprisoned in this, like, as you say, letterbox. You know, so with the, you know, just shrouded away into the darkness, you know, not part of the society. Like, would you call that freedom? And but I think it's that case.
But don't you play an active role inside? Are you not like a student and
exactly,
have a life outside of your home, for example? You know.
I mean, you know, there's nothing that I've. In fact, becoming, since I was Muslim, I've done more active things now than I did before. I've gone scuba diving, quad biking. You know, I've still been able to do all those things with a hijab on.
Cool.
Whereas I wasn't really doing these things before. You know, you can do anything with a hijab on as long as you're covered. It's you know, and also it's your mannerisms as well that comes with it as well. But again, I think it's a personal choice as well, and it again is what people think or consider what freedom is for them. So I think
that's all about perceptions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I always find it interesting, people who don't wear hijab, they will question you to wear it, whereas you know, why do they feel that sort of necessary concern for you? You know, it's like, oh well, you poor thing, you know, you're covered, and you know, you need to be free. But it's like, well, I've with full knowledge and you know, educating myself, I've made this conscious decision.
So and mom was saying, but are you sure that your dad didn't force you on your husband?
But you're saying, well, I've made a conscious decision, so I would appreciate if you could respect my decision to do that, and I respect yours not to wear it. So it's often a battle, isn't it? But I think one of the criticisms I've heard a lot of from non-Muslims is the male hijab. And the lack of it, that, you know, why are women expected to wear this covering and things like that, and men are not expected, and then you have to explain that actually men do have a lot of requirements equally. You know, we all have modesty within us. We all stipulated about hijab, you know, the way that you know, men are not supposed to be you know, exposing themselves, and you know, and again, covering for hijab is, for it's a physical something. I suppose it's easier for us. It reminds, like you were saying, it feels something to you. For me, when if I see a man's, you know, part of his body, I don't like to, you know, tarnish my eyesight, because I don't want to see something that's inappropriate. So it's a good reminder for me. But whereas men also need to be aware that, you know, you don't, you know, you cover certain ways, you have to pray with certain clothes. I mean, you'd know better than, you know, I will. I've looked into detail into what, you know, men's, but it's a requirement of a man as well. And again, you go into the social hijab that you're talking about. So there's lots of layers for each gender to be, you know, for what's in how God has created us. Like for men, it's very visual. So they say women are covered, and for women, you know, for men in other ways, you've got to stipulate your own mannerisms towards a woman, how you behave towards her. So there's lots of requirements.
Again, that's a social hijab in terms of your conduct, conduct towards a woman. Interesting. Oh, we have a call. Just about to go somewhere else, but we have a caller. Hello, caller, and assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
What is a comment or question you'd like to make?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment about, so we talked about the hijab for men, and of course we just touched on it a bit, but I have an issue with the fact that we keep going on about, women's hijab, and you just barely mentioned men's hijab.
Mm-hmm.
So why do you think that is? And is there something we can do about it?
Excellent question. I have an answer, but I'll save mine on, as they say, ladies first. So I'll invite you to address the caller first, and then I'll chip in.
Okay, I see where you're coming from, brother. I think because I think it is because I think more.
I think he's gone, but he
Oh,
may
he's
be
gone.
watching the screen
Oh,
or,
okay.
or his phone or whatever it is. He's
Okay. But I think personally, I don't know if this is the answer to it, but personally, I think because women have more to cover,
Mm-hmm.
it seems as though women have more of a responsibility.
Sure.
But obviously, both men and women have the same responsibility to cover. But I think there's I'm not sure actually. I think it is based on maybe women have to cover more, and that's why.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
What about yourself?
I
Because we're not saying that there's
Yeah,
a definitive
no,
correct answer. He just
no.
kind of asked a
Yeah,
question, and
yeah,
we're not answering it scholarly,
Yeah.
but just
No,
our
yeah.
perspective on it.
Yeah.
I think more can be done to remind men about their social and their hijab. What
I
are their
think maybe
requirements?
more should be done, not
Should be
just
done,
could be, but
yeah.
should be. Would be helpful.
Because we hear so much about women. I remember growing up, and all we heard was that women don't come uncovered in the mosque. But okay, fair, that's absolutely valid. But equally, we need to remind men what their responsibility is, because we
Yeah.
both do have them as genders.
Yeah.
So again, when you're perhaps as a man you should know what your stipulations are, what your requirements are to be covered physically. But again, a man's physical is what is it, you don't
Yeah, our from your
Yeah.
minimum is your navel or something.
I mean,
It's
you
your
can probably
knee.
explain
Yeah.
better to us, and I think we should
Yeah.
grill you for this. Yeah, go on, we'd be interested.
No,
to hear.
my perspective, for whatever it's worth, is that I think that as a Muslim society or as a Muslim community, we tend to discuss the female hijab more because it's apparent.
Yeah.
But whereas the male hijab is more not just about his physical covering and not covering, wearing tight clothes or things of that nature, but also because the male hijab is, if I'm not mistaken, is mentioned first in the Quran, and that is to lower the gaze and to
Yes.
not,
Yeah.
so men are encouraged not to speak with women who they're not, a family member, whatever, in too
Yeah.
soft a voice. So
Yeah.
it exists. It's very imperative,
Yeah.
but because it's not physical, it's easier to get lost in the conversation. And then
Yeah.
also there is maybe the gender aspect of things. I don't know what you think about this, but men scholarship attitudes have come into play about what is really Islam. So
yeah.
you'll probably find more men who may try to pressure their daughters to wear hijab, but they're maybe not going to necessarily pressure their sons as much to adopt the male hijab because it just
Exactly.
slips,
Yeah.
slips by.
Yeah.
Maybe there's an acceptance that boys can do, well, it's okay, it's a boy, or a male, but it
It doesn't make it
matters to both.
correct.
It
I'm not saying
doesn't.
that it's correct,
No,
but
no,
that's
yeah.
maybe
Yeah,
some,
that's the
misapplication of
Yeah.
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 what the scholars would teach us, that no, the male hijab is important and the
No,
female
yeah.
hijab is important.
I mean,
Maybe in our
yeah.
own Muslim, in our
Yeah.
own fallible way, we kind of
Yeah.
err and go in
Yeah.
a certain
Because if
direction.
you've got children and you've got a son and a daughter, you are going to teach them, like for the sons, that cover yourselves. Okay, the physical aspect of
Yeah.
when you're praying, you have to be covered this much. When you're going out, don't wear that. I mean, the tight trousers are really not appealing. All those sort of things. So they're the things that you teach a son. And
This
and
era of the
equally-
metrol is not really helpful.
No, and then to also tell them that you respect a woman, you do lower your gaze, and your social boundaries with her must be respected, and especially with a woman that is observing her hijab. I mean, she, not that you can, it's justifiable to do it to a woman that's not wearing hijab. Any woman, respect women, and I think that's something that you've got to teach young boys so that they grow up to be men that have that hijab ingrained within them as well. And your daughter, yes, you would teach again. There's the social hijab, the physical hijab. So both genders have their teachings, and it doesn't allow one to be saying, well, it's blasé, oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
No, and you must cover because you're a girl. I mean, to be honest, in my experience, I've seen so many parents being so restrictive with their children. Oh, my daughter's 6 years old or wearing hijab. I'm sorry, but when that child gets to university, when they have the option to do what they want, will they continue at that point? And if you, as a parent, if your child does that, then sit back and say, alhamdulillah, I did my job. If they, you're 6 years old, every child will, Mine promised me a Ferrari at 6, it's just not, doesn't work practically.
Yeah. What was your thoughts? And because the caller raised a point and it triggered a thought in my mind. There is this idea that and I know the hijab is for many women a choice, some women may be pressure, but there's the idea of some Muslim men with their wives, they're walking down the road holding their wife's hand, and they're in the summer, they're wearing like a tight vest top and skinny jeans or something like that, and then their wife is burqa'd out or just hijabbed up, and like, maybe that's her choice and that's his choice, although you should be, ideally you should be observing the male hijab, but is that good PR for Muslims then, or does that kind of enforce stereotypes to the non-Muslims who are observing?
I think
but your husband, he's got a tight top on, or, you know, how does that play out? How does that play out?
I think it does in a way. It brings about a sense of confusion, like for people who actually are wondering and curious about it. I think it's good to. That's why Allah says to practice it. Like both genders have an equal role in practicing the hijab, because otherwise it will raise a sense of confusion in society and, you know, oppression maybe as well, and maybe that's where the whole oppression idea comes from, because men are lacking in practicing the hijab, whereas women are practicing it more
manifested the hijab.
So maybe it comes across to the outside world who are non-Muslim, that maybe seeing this outlook on Islam, they portray as Islam having more laws towards women than men.
Yeah.
Where that's not the case. It's just the men not practicing as much as, you know, the hijab as much as the women maybe.
So maybe women are just often more devout. But it's seen as their fault. It's just a misconception.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think for women, I mean, I honestly, I take personally a lot of offence. I don't want to see men's body parts. I mean, okay, a non-Muslim wouldn't understand that, but a Muslim
Neither
man
do I, and I'm a man.
yeah, because for me, I just think, you know, what I see that is not appropriate will affect my soul, and I don't want that. So, and then, you know, you have to almost like protect your own self. Well, I don't want to see that. And yet, I think it would be nice for them to be courteous towards women who do observe hijab. That, you know what, we don't care about your flexes and your muscles. It isn't appealing. Just cover yourself. So yeah, I think it's really important that men do take a bit more understanding of their responsibility in society as well. Not that it's, you know, we're obviously not attacking men here. It's just it's a very general overview. You know.
But it would. You think it would be helpful if us men were to make more across the board.
I think that's what George just says. If this perception is being made, and you're absolutely right that the non-Muslims are making this perception that older women are more observant. Well, surely we should be doing our PR better. So like you were saying, that, you know, don't give that impression that, oh, it's okay for men to do what they want. You know, we are all striving to our journey to God, and underneath all this physical layer, we're all souls. So we have to, you know, it's perfecting that soul. So it's how we're all going to go about it. And I just think we all have responsibilities to.
We all have a responsibility.
Yeah,
Hope to hear from you on the other side of the break on 0203 515 1234. But until such time, Assalamu alaikum.